that we're going to be able to do. But nevertheless, we made it. We're not touching any settings because this platform is so hosed up with whatever changes they've made in the last few weeks. We're lucky we're even on tonight. Hey, look, this is going to be a good show tonight. We're going to be talking about, quite frankly, the rapid use of video. It's been accelerating for the last couple of years. It's really accelerating at a greater rate with all the new tools and with the new capabilities and the need to communicate this way. But quite frankly, our special guest tonight is John Demers. John, I've known for many years. I don't dare list all of the things he knows how to do in the film industry, but he's done everything from hold a camera, hold a boom, do the lights, to directing it, producing it, and everything in between those two extremes. He actually goes watches them now and then too. So John, welcome to Facebook Live in this broadcast.
Thank you, Bill.
Why don't you take a few moments here to introduce yourself? I mean, probably don't need much more after my fine introduction, but go ahead and give it a try.
No, it was a fine introduction. I'm delighted that I have been able to have a life with careers that would classify me a Renaissance man. I have done a number of things that created depth and breadth in short periods of time, but the item that I've stuck with the longest, that I have the longest depth and breadth, because it's 27, 28 years now, is in the acting profession, and both theatrical on stage professionally and in front of the camera professionally, which after a few years in early 2001, I realized that the money was in content ownership, creating the content and having some leverage and ownership during the life of that property, which is now today forever, really. There's always someplace that will run it. And so in the early 2000s, I went into doing the production side and switched from being an actor to going to the other side of the camera and learning all the skills that are required to do it. I didn't learn the film skills. I want to make it clear. I could not be a loader clapper. I wouldn't know how to keep the film getting overexposed. If I can't take it to Walmart and give them the film, I'm in trouble. And I can't do that anymore, so I'm in trouble. So the video is what I learned, were all those various skill sets. And what I did learn, most importantly, are the skill sets that I don't know, and when I have to hire for those based on budgets. And of course, the budgets drive, various elements of the production and what the final product would look like. And so that's what I've been doing then since the mid 2000s. And so I have a production company and hire a bunch of people now and then to do productions. And then of course, otherwise I'm a 1-2 person shop. Me and another gentleman named Will Lilly is sort of one of my creative and one of my editors that I work with on a regular basis. And that brings me up to, as I developed the skill sets on the production side, I began to realize in about 2009 on one of the projects I was working on at the time, a kids TV show that we premiered on WRAL TV, that I needed to take it further, and it was going to require raising capital. And to raise capital in this market, I first went out to learn the language, learn the floor, if you will, of what's out there and who you need to meet and who you need to know, which is about the time that you and I met.
Yes,
and so that reaching out and learning about capital exposed me to people who at times needed access to the kind of things that I do with production work, because I really believed that from my perspective, I wanted to make sure that I could provide a quality product and meet the client at the budget they had, considering where their company was as a startup. Because as I was working with investors, they were beginning to introduce me to startups that needed it to look professional, but they couldn't afford a $5,000 and upwards day. And so we had to find a way to help them for less than $1,000 a day. And in some instances, for a couple $100 a day.
I remember we had chats like that when you were talking about how to raise capital, which
Yep.
in this industry is a tall order. But look, Our audience tonight is small business owners, and of all kinds, all across lots of industries, tech, some life science, but mostly small services businesses usually, but also retail. We're dealing with mainly helping entrepreneurs in the small business world. So this is addressed to them. But the first question I'd like you to take a stab at, and it's not really a stab because we practiced this.
I kind of have notes. I'm cheating. Laptop.
Yep, right. So how do business owners today determine if video content is really the appropriate thing for them to do? You and I have a bias, and of course it is, but put some more meat on the bones. So, do they even need it? What are the indicators that they need it? How do they find out that they need it? All that kind of stuff. Is it justified?
It used to be that if you were working on a classified project, you were probably exempt from it. But the reality is now, not even a project that's classified for a governmental entity, you still need that video. I really can't think of an instance where either live video, which is what we're doing, there might be a replay, but at the moment there's a live video stream, or a 10, 15 second, 30 second, 60, 90, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute sizzle reel might be needed for someone to introduce their product. One of the things that's also happening more and more beyond the product are the pitch decks that businesses are having to put together for investors. These pitch decks now are pretty much video. I mean, They may have stationary parts that you're looking at documents initially, or spreadsheets, but they're really a video. And so
this venture summit that we're now viewing, every single pitch is a video, coupled with background slides. You're right.
Now imagine if it's got bad audio or it's got a bad image. How long do you think they're really going to watch it? They may go, okay, let's just tag it. It's a good idea, but we'll watch it at the end. Let's go to the next one.
Let's see how much money he's raising.
Good ones. But if they run out of money before they get to that last one again, I mean, it's something to seriously think about. Visual and the audio. And I'll tell you what, the secret is you could probably get away with a little bad video, but you can't get away with bad audio. Your audio must be pristine. We will forgive a visual, but if we can't hear you, as you and I know from testing this system.
So you're cringing because this is my mic here.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you. You can hear me. It's good audio.
I'm going to get me a good mic.
You get my point. Bad audio is no audio.
Yeah, you had me. You had me shaking my boots. Oh my God, we lost me.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. I'm sorry.
Start my heart again.
You need good audio, and you do need good video. And you really need to make sure that in your startup phase, you're taking it into consideration at some level in your organization.
John, what I've been telling people is that, in addition to all of what you just said, and more you haven't said, is that video content brings out a much more complete communication in terms of not just communicating the words, but your body language, your emphasis, your gestures, your eye contact. People read a lot into what you're saying and the importance of it because they see you. They get to know you better, and they get to know you better really quickly. That's good news and bad news, I guess. But it's just
we feel better when we feel we know somebody, and when we start visually seeing them and hearing them. Then when we see them in person, the connection becomes stronger. It's not strictly from an email or a paper presentation.
So, look, once these business owners get the religion, say, we need to have much more video content. how do they then determine what's appropriate and what media channels are the best for their businesses? What are the indicators that tell them we need to deliver this over whatever kind of channels that are appropriate for their viewers? And how do
Well,
they verify it?
right.
And what are the usual suspects of
Yeah, one
channels?
of the things that I encourage the startup to look for are platforms that they can have their video content reside and be and kept at a professional level. It's not to say that someone might not have a skill set within the organization that they could run a laptop and the hardware. But the reality is you want it on the internet. That's where it's going to be seen. Even if you say, well, I'm sending it as an email to someone, it's better to send a link and they go through a server that is verified or whitelisted and they have confidence. Now, as I mentioned companies, I want to make it clear tonight, I don't receive any compensation from any of the companies that I will suggest or recommend or say that I use. So whenever any actor or producer hears me reference anything, nobody pays me unless I'm contracted to be an actor or contracted to be a producer. I say what I say because of my own research, and you should do yours too. Now, talking about places to host videos, I actually use two primary places. I use Vimeo, Vimeo.com,
Yep.
and I have a YouTube channel that I'm starting to develop now. I have a number of private channels that I use for clients, but I'm actually going to be developing a couple of my own that I've been working on during this time that I've been home, since I have the skill sets and I have all the gear. So, and my clients all let me go because they don't have anything for me now through the summer. So I'm creating some of my own content because, again, I know the value of creating content. So as you create your content for your business, you want a place to curate it, to have it that will make it readily available for the various platforms like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest, wherever you might be shooting that video clip out to, even if it's just you leave it on Vimeo because that's where you have your pitch deck, because that's where you're going to send folks to see it, because they do very good analytics and they do them on a very simple scale. So they're not complicated. And I'm not saying others are, but I'll say this about YouTube. I do find that as big as they are, it can be a little daunting to set up your channels. I know how to, but it's a little more challenging. So Vimeo makes that easy for you.
Sure
and
is.
so that's why I put most all my clients' videos there as well as my own.
Yeah. But you know, I use both. I'm glad to hear that you recommend both. Vimeo is the easiest. It's just an upload, and you put a description in the thing. YouTube
And
is
we haven't discussed this yet, you see.
no, I didn't know you were going to say that.
Yep.
They think we're lying. Yes, we did not discuss that for sure.
Now, Bill may be getting money for this, but I'm not.
Nobody's going to believe us. We didn't discuss this. But YouTube is more complicated. I just spent the last 3 weeks taking all of this content I had on Vimeo and putting it in YouTube and organizing it into playlists and putting the thumbnails in the darn thing and the end card. And there's a lot more stuff you can do. It just takes time to do it. Once you get through it, you go, okay.
It's for the person who's really going to be doing a bit more than maybe a startup at the initial phase.
But they were, you know, I am not a professional, nowhere even close to what you're able to do, but I could figure it out. And I think everybody else can as well. These are one of the nice things is these tools are becoming easier and easier and easier. But you move up to the ranks of YouTube and what's that other one? What's that Adobe product for actually producing the video photo? No, I don't.
There's Photoshop, there's Adobe Premiere, there's Vegas.
That's
Vegas has several editing programs, and that's the primary one that I use because back in the 2009 when I was doing stuff for TV, broadcast TV, they have a standard, and Vegas at the time was the easiest way for me to get it to a broadcast deliverable for the station. And so the others all do now. I mean, I don't want to say anybody doesn't. They all do now. But, once you've been with a product through several different organizations that have owned it, you stick with it.
So what it comes down to now, we got the platforms and some of the tools. We'll cover some more in a minute or two, but where in heck do people find content that's appropriate for their business?
Content is, you can go on to Google, Bing, Safari, your favorite browser, and you can research a number of places that have video assets, picture assets, image assets that you can bring into your media bin to use to edit into whatever you're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
What I've gravitated to a company that has changed its name. So I got it a couple of times. So I'm going to look at what it currently is called storyblocks.com, just like it's down, Storyblock, B-L-O-C-K. They've got several portals, an audio, video, and image. And basically it's mostly royalty free, and we can get into licensing in a few moments, but basically they have images that you could use for the purposes of this discussion, like a corporate or an industrial video or a pitch deck to pitch for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have elements with actors already in clips doing things, tasks, dressed as scientists. So you kind of have a mix of everything, and they've got it in various file size, high definition, 2K, 4K. There's now 5 and 6K starting to surface. I mean, nobody needs that size or quality for any of what we're talking about right now. High definition is just fine. But storyblocks.com would be a good resource to see the variety that is available and read some of the licensing that they have, which basically, again, for the level of product we're talking about, is mostly royalty free, so that once you've either paid your subscription, and I think an annual subscription is like $275, $300, and I can use anything on there. There are a few premium items that if I needed that in higher resolution, I might have to pay a special premium, but I've never had to because my clients and I've never needed it. And I do use that as a resource for my clients. I will send them there to look at things. That's a place I would go, because from that, you can then start digging around and saying, I want to look at sites like Storyblocks. And then you'll see all these other companies out there. And they're all pretty much around either $9 or $10, $20 a month, or a flat fee of anywhere from $150 to $400 or $500 a month, depending on which service you get.
If you search, it won't take you long. That's a new one. I'm going to look that one up. But Google News is, it never fails me. Yep. I use Social Pilot as well and it's curated content.
Sure.
So there are lots and lots of choices. And inside these, you can do a search on the topic you want, and they'll bring back 30 or 40 articles that you can pick from.
That's true. And also it's interesting to note that at least with Storyblocks, and I've heard this of other companies, that if you ask for something and they don't seem to have it, they may reach out to one of their more popular producer who's making these video clips and audio clips and putting them up for people to buy. Again, ownership contents, like owning the taxi cab. Do you want to own the taxi or ride in it? So it's own it, because every time you go somewhere owning it, you make money. And it's the same thing with the content. And to my point, if you're able to say, this is what I want, and they don't have it, they may be able to get one of those producers to actually go produce it. And instead of you paying $10,000 or $15,000 for them to produce it, you still may only pay whatever it was for the subscription for that month or for the year. And that's it.
But while we're on tools and things, let's go one step deeper. And that is actually getting the video itself produced. I mean, made. What are the basics of equipment that kind of the must-haves? The video editing, video storage. We already mentioned Vimeo and YouTube. And the social media distribution channels or tools. Like I use Social Pilot, but there are others as well. What do you recommend?
Most important elements of success.
All right. Let's say you're a startup, and let's say that you really are at that point where, well, maybe they've had coffee with someone like you, and you've
totally
asked them,
confused them.
okay, but I'm saying, but at that point, they've said, well, here's my product idea, and in theory, you go, well, that's actually a good product. I mean, when you consider the Internet of Things, that product's a good idea, but we're going to need to see something, pitch deck. Oh yeah, I've heard we need to have pitch deck. It's really, that's at the time, I would like for people to start realizing that, because someone says they may need to see a video presentation or, a PowerPoint that's got video and audio tied into the PowerPoint, they shouldn't freak out because they're going, oh my God, I'd still have to spend a couple, $3,000 buying equipment to do that. Or if I hired someone, my gosh, I think, the lowest rate in the area is probably around $700 or $800. I've been known to go lower, but for the most part, to have a producer and another crew person for the day, $700 to $800 is the low ball. We love to have $5,000 days and have about 10 people on set. I mean, that's our dream a day. Spend $5,000 of your money a day, and that's the low budget world still. If I'm doing something for John Deere or someone like that, I'm probably at $15,000 and up a day.
Yep, I believe
that's not where we're talking about right now, because what we're saying is you don't need to spend any money on equipment. You really don't. You probably have a smartphone, because if you're at least getting into if you're getting into this, going out and raising, you're going to need a smartphone. That's not to say that the person raising the money is dumb, but be smart, have a smartphone, because a smartphone's camera today, truly, the megapixel strength of a smartphone camera today is equivalent to the camera I would have used in the early 1990s to go out and shoot a $10,000 or $15,000 a day project. In other words, it would have had that good a quality in our cameras. So your camera is a very powerful tool. And again, you can go online. I know YouTube, I've stopped counting how many videos on YouTube will tell you how to use your iPhone, your Galaxy, another smartphone to create video clips that you can then use to edit on software. Again, you can get software online that's shareware, that's free. There are also a few companies that have high-end software like Adobe Premiere, the Vegas, but they also have a junior version for if they go well, if you just want to do videos for online or something, and that's really what the quality needs to be. It needs to be good enough that you could watch it on your computer. And so that equipment, your phone, and literally the lights you probably have in your home, and if not, go to Walmart and Lowe's and you can buy some lights there. I mean, and people, I'll give you my contact information at the end, but for about $20 you can have lights that will make you look great when you're doing your presentation on the camera, and you're not the whole time on your presentation. So just remember, and there are also tools that can be used on your phone that can put your script on there, so that when you're getting your speech out, your pitch, your lines, your elevator pitch, whatever, in that short video, it'll have it scrolling for you right up near the camera, so that you can look as professional as possible and not constantly have to look down for notes. Because if I had kept doing this all day, y'all would have seen this bald spot. But right. So, but that's
me with it.
But that's the point. I want people to use the tools that are available on their camera, because maybe you would have to invest in a couple of apps for, again, another $5 or $10 or $15, because you have a feature now that has the scrolling teleprompter on it. But again, they're not required. Those are just things, though, that you can do. So when I tell people that they can go out and make professional looking videos, I say they can do it for less than $75 if they own a smartphone, and that's in the apps and in the software necessary to make it look good.
Yep. And you graduate up from there for a little fancier mic and a round light in front of your face and all the sorts of stuff.
Well, I mean, that's, this is exactly what we've got right here, is this round light that my finger's kind of going through.
Yeah, I got one of them.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, But those
that cost me
and
$85
my
or
phone is
something.
being held by the same rig, and I think I got the whole thing on Amazon for like $20.
So the cost of tools is not a barrier. It's just they're there, they're simple, they're effective.
What I want people to
And the
do,
resolution is quite adequate for most of what a small business owner is going to be faced with, right?
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And what I want them to understand is, yes, I'd like for them to pay me bigger dollars, but what I'd like them to do is get on their feet, get their, initial development funds or a first round, get solidified, and use me as a resource if they need something done. Give me a phone call. I'd rather have a phone call or an email and help you out where you're spending, less than a couple $100 or nothing, because it got you through and solved your problem. Even if it's, hey, I just need a video that shows the product and real fast edits and looking cool to music, and it doesn't have anybody speaking. How do I do that? There are plenty of online services that can produce those videos for usually less than about $25, because you're just paying for the month subscription for them to cut it together that fast. There really are tools out there for the startup to get this done without spending hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars at this point.
Well, like it's one thing for me to say it. It's yet another when you're saying these things that you, with your experience, that you too believe that anyone can do this. Not with doesn't take a lot of money. It does take some time and a little bit of learning. And the learning tools are out there. You find them all over YouTube. YouTube videos about anything you ever want to do.
Well, we talked about Vimeo, and you probably are aware too. These companies have tutorials online on how to make the best video, because they want viewership on their website. They want people to come to your channel. They want people to look, but they know people won't if it looks bad or sounds bad.
Yeah, it's in their best interest. You're right.
So you can find free tutorials in a number of places like Vimeo, YouTube, to help you get the skill sets down that you need initially, because you're going to use them more than once, because social media will become something necessary for your company as you get to the phase where you're out there promoting it and becoming public with it.
Yeah. Well, John, I really appreciate you spending time with me, and also time with me to make this darn thing work.
We got a lot more time than that.
People don't know. You and I spent about 2 hours trying to figure out how to make streaming work here on BeLive.tv. I think we might have it figured out. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. And I'll put a thumbnail on this, the recording of this on the front and the end of it with all your contact information.
Thank you, sir.
We'll publish this tomorrow, sending out to some of my closest friends on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And you can do the same.
Yeah, don't forget that address for the folks I have up at Ellis Island, so that they can get it.
You give me a special address, we'll give them a deal. Thanks again, John.
You
Have a
got
great
it.
evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yep.